This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with MO'ROYCE Peterson, guitarist and vocalist of the heavy metal disco tribute act, Tragedy. If I knew absolutely nothing about Tragedy, how would you describe the band's music to me?
Well, we are an all-metal tribute to the Bee Gees and beyond. So original inspiration was to do like hair metal versions of the Bee Gees disco hits. And then we did all those on the first album. And from there, we started moving into other disco artists and others, 70s soft rock. And basically anything is fair game for us as long as it's not metal or hard rock to begin with. But we tend to gravitate towards that 70s, 80s era when there was that tension between the disco people and the rocker people, and it's all great music.
Absolutely. And you have an album coming out on March 3rd called I Am Woman through Napalm Records. It's the follow-up to Disco
Right.
Balls to the Wall, which I feel like you just released not too long ago. This time you're kind of flipping the script on the sleaze rock tropes by covering all women and all kind of empowering songs here too.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what we do. We're always flipping the script. So it's all female artists that we're covering on this. We've done a lot of that in the past too, but we thought it'd be kind of cool to make a whole album of it this time.
You guys are from the New York area, or at least some of you are from the New York area. I noticed that you covered fellow New Yorker Cyndi Lauper with She Bop.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're from New York City, and yeah, it's a great song. I mean, these songs, like the themes run the gamut. A song like the title track I Am Woman, which is really truly about empowerment, to romance and partying. In the case of She Bop, masturbation.
As a kid, I absolutely loved that song. Had no idea what it was about.
Yeah, the video keeps it kind of discreet what the meaning is.
Absolutely. And another one you covered, which I assume was inspired by your hometown, was Memory from Cats.
That's right. The Broadway classic. It is an epic. I love our version of this. It's one of my favorite tracks on the album. We did it with the drag performer, Mrs. Smith. Do you know Mrs. Smith, the guitarist and singer? You can go deep on the internet with Mrs. Smith, but she beat Kirk Hammett in a wah-wah contest, which is kind of a major claim to fame. But absolutely blazing guitarist. The character is kind of an Upper East Side socialite who got locked in a closet one time and with nothing but a guitar to entertain her, so she learned how to shred. Yeah, she's a cat lover too, so it just fit with the whole Cats theme.
You have a video out for Venus by Bananarama, and do you guys make your own music videos?
Yeah, the first real video we did was for It's Raining Men. We have such like talented friends and family here in the city, all these creative people. So yeah, we end up like getting a DP and then bringing in, whatever, dancing talent or comedic talent, acting talent, to collaborate with on these videos. And actually the one of the featured Venuses just got this huge spread in Spin magazine. Tammy Faye Starlight. She's this amazing cabaret performer. She's the one with the laser beam eyes in the video. The take no shit Venus.
You would certainly agree that performance is just as important. When I say performance, I guess sort of the putting on a show is just as important as being able to play a song proficiently.
Well, especially live, like live experience is different. Like you notice, say you just listen to a live recording, that you're missing out on something. Yeah, there's a whole lot of visual and vibe and everything that goes into a performance that you're watching.
You also cover Irene Cara's What a Feeling from Flashdance. Was this sort of a late addition to the album to honor her passing?
No, we've actually been working on a version of this for quite some time. It just, yeah, coincided with her passing. Yeah, what an amazing talent she was. Oh man, it's fun, like digging into these songs sometimes, like these soft rock singers or disco singers. Like they're digging in so deep, and you're like, man, this is just one step away, one small step away from being metal. And that's her. Like she like Flashdance. It's like that song, the all the riffage and stuff. If you just kind of do it on heavy guitars instead of synthesizers and stuff like that, just scream it a little bit more. It's like one of those songs that just turns right into metal. Not all the stuff that we do is that simple, but with hers, it kind of was.
You covered I'm So Excited by the Pointer Sisters, and I wanted to say it's surpassed my favorite cover version of I'm So Excited by Zack Attack from Saved by the Bell.
I'm not familiar with that one. I should be. I will be as soon as we're done with this.
Oh, it's a classic episode. At the end, you kind of mix I Am Woman with Roar by Katy Perry. So I assume you're kind of like bridging the gaps of generations here because the songs are similar meanings.
Yeah. And lyrically, they kind of flow right into each other. I Am Woman, and you're going to hear me roar. We'll dabble in, some more contemporary music when it fits what we're doing.
What kind of spawned the whole formation of Tragedy? Was it your idea? Was it a couple of you and your friends spitball and stuff? How did it all come together?
It was really just a stupid idea on paper. We got a call. I was producing an album for a friend of mine. We're taking lunch. We get a call from a promoter here in New York. And he says, hey, I have this band Super Diamond, this Neil Diamond tribute, doing a weekend of shows at Irving Plaza. And I'd like an unusual kind of opening band. What can you come up with? And we're like, oh, we'll call you back. And we sat there and brainstormed. We're like, we had this idea, a heavy metal tribute to something distinctly not heavy metal. And we're going through like I threw out there like Anita Baker. I was like zero crossover, like with metal and Anita Baker. I'm like, okay, that's funny. But then, wheels kept spinning, and then my buddy, he's like, Bee Gees. His eyes lit up. My eyes lit up. We called back the promoter, and we're like, heavy metal tribute to the Bee Gees. He's like, that's fantastic. Next thing you know, like we made a couple demos, and so we had that weekend of shows booked at Irving Plaza, but then the demos and the concept were so exciting that the promoters started pitching it to all these other shows, and we ended up doing shows before those Irving Plaza shows. First one was at BB King's with the Aquabats. It was kind of amazing how it clicked. Like it really seemed like a stupid idea, and I think for most people to do this idea, it would end up, it could very easily end up being completely useless. But for some reason, it just really authentically connected with our creative spirit, and then we saw the connection with the audiences right away.
And you independently released your albums for probably the first decade or so under Beauty Rock Records, and that had to take a little more work trying to put shows together, trying to put your material out, trying to get it heard.
Yeah, so we had, with the first album, we had a little help from a label in the UK, and that ended up being really important for us. It was the Wild Hearts label, and they brought us on tour with them for a national tour of the UK. We finished that tour doing a show in London with Electric Six, the American band. I Want to Take You to a Gay Bar band, and they're really especially big in the UK. A couple top 10 hits there. We got on their tour like just a few months later, so like all that kind of led to, well, some international action for us. From there, yeah, we started putting out the records ourselves, and sometimes working with booking agents, sometimes not. But kind of self-made for so many albums. How many do we have? Like eight, eight albums or something before we signed to Napalm. Yeah. But it's great to have this renowned record label to work with now. Like, gets to connect us to a lot more people like you.
How did you end up signing with Napalm?
It was funny. So we were on tour March 2020 in the UK. Last show we played was March 14th, the Saturday, and it was that Wednesday when things got really, really serious with the pandemic and shutdowns and stuff like that. We had a manager from Germany who was interested in working with us, and he came to the London show, and he was like, "You ever think about, working with a record label?" And we're like, "Duh, I don't know. Not really. I don't know." He's like, "Well, that might be a good idea." It's like, okay. And then it was like, but it's the pandemic now and everything is shut down. And so that's an absurd idea. He's like, "Yeah, I think I have some interest. I think it could work out." And somehow magically, when nothing was happening in the world, he managed to connect us with Napalm. We put out our first record. It was kind of a compilation, kind of greatest hits album with them, Disco Balls to the Wall. It is kind of an effort to introduce the band, to the world through a label. And we're like, okay, that was the end of July 2021. We're like, okay, so live music's starting back. We'll go on tour and support the album. And it was like, I mean, you know how it was. It's just crazy bumpy ride for so many bands. We didn't get back on tour, and we've been doing some regional touring since then. But like UK, which is kind of our top market, it will be over 3 years since we last played there, when we get there in April this year.
You sort of spawned disco fever at Napalm Records because they got a couple artists that are also doing the disco thing, I've noticed. Nano War of Steel, also a parody band, tribute band, parody, whatever you want to call it these days. They just released a song the other day called Disco Metal, and Amber Rain Dawn just did a tribute album to ABBA. So clearly your presence at the label is infectious.
Yeah, you're welcome. What can we say? We're actually touring with Nano War of Steel for most of our European dates. Amazing band, really hilarious. And they took disco metal in kind of a surprise direction. Like our disco metal is, well, of course, from 70s disco, right? And they went kind of into more contemporary discotheque and mixed that with metal. It's a damn funny song and video.
I watched it yesterday. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
Have you ever gotten any feedback from any of the artists that you've covered?
Yeah, well, the Bee Gees family early on, but still to this day, but they got wind of it. We didn't talk to any of the Bee Gees themselves. Their children have reached out to us over the years and really love and appreciate what we do, which is really nice to hear because, like, you could take it the wrong way potentially, and that's not where the spirit of the band is. We make a lot of fun of everything, but we are truly inspired by the Bee Gees and truly inspired by the songs that we cover as well. Oh, and YMCA too. One of the Village People. Yeah.
Did you ever get any negative reaction from any of the artists?
No, not at all. I mean, these, especially like with, YouTube and everything, like, what are they going to do? Like, go get negative on people, even if they don't like it, is what I'm saying. What are they going to go, like, attack people who are covering the songs? No one wants to do that. That's not a good look. If there's any negativity that we've experienced, it's more from kind of metal gatekeeper types. But then it's just like, I feel like we've been through that. We like someone gets through a whole show and they may, stand there with arms crossed at the beginning. And by the end, they're doing the YMCA dance with us or something. We just we're on a mission to break through all those barriers.
It's funny you brought up gatekeepers, because I had a question about gatekeepers. It seems like, when it comes to heavy metal, that's it. Can't listen to anything else or you're not a real metalhead.
Here's the thing, like people who love music, and that would include almost basically all musicians, but then tons of people who aren't musicians but truly love music. Their whole life they've kind of gone through appreciating different stuff, right? It's interesting to when we have like audiences that weren't even alive when these songs were made famous, but people who love music, they go back through the years because they're interested in what was cool back then. And it is interesting, like the way, production was. And one of the first things happened to me as a music lover. I was 9 years old. I got obsessed with music from the 50s. And I started collecting, go to garage sales and stuff and collecting 45s from the 50s. But I feel like every music lover has kind of gone through these phases, and they may identify with a certain group, like when I was a teenager, as, real, like kind of hardcore punk guy. Right. But man, I was picking up music from all over the place, and sometimes especially stuff that the punk rock was rebelling against. Punk rock was a real rebellion against the kind of AOR of the 70s. And I was like, I can get these for 50 cents at the record store. I'm going to start listening to this stuff. So that's always been an inspiration for me. And I think it kind of plays out in this band and everything we do. For gatekeepers, like, look, everyone's got an ego and like an identity they're trying to put out there. I get it. And hey, you can't please everyone. Except tragedy. Tragedy does please everyone. Sometimes they keep it secret, though.
Speaking earlier of sleaze rock tropes, you're going to be opening up for Steel Panther in the U.S. in the spring.
That's right. Yeah, that tour starts in less than 2 weeks. 2 weeks from today. Hilarious band, so talented too. We played with them quite a while ago in LA, and then I managed to see them at a show in New York, and then we did a festival together in Germany. Their shows in the US. This was some time ago. I think when they first started touring the US was when I saw them in New York, and when I saw them in LA, I don't think they'd really started touring yet. But back then, I would say 2/3 of their show was banter, and it wasn't boring. I mean, these guys would take, they're playing Irving Plaza, so 1,500 cap venue, and they're doing comedy, and just have everyone wrapped around their finger, And then I was curious because when they were playing in Germany, because we've done shows in Germany and throughout Europe where English is a second language. And we found that even though people may speak very good English, that their comedy, the way you do comedy from stage, it's just not the same as doing it like in the US or UK or something like that. So we really changed our banter, like certain things that are musically comedy or like kind of visual comedy. That's easy, but the verbal comedy we really had to tweak. And I was like, man, Steel Panther, like 2/3 of their show is talking with the audience. How are they going to do this in Germany? And so there's less banter, and then they learned a couple key phrases in German to share with the audience.
I understand exactly where you're coming from, because I've told many American sarcastic jokes with bands from other countries, specifically Germany and Sweden, and they didn't get it. And I'm like, geez, I wonder if they thought I was an asshole.
Yeah. Yeah. You really have to adapt. But it's great. I mean, we love playing there. Like like France, where there's probably less, there's a lot of English spoken there. I think especially with like, music fans and metal fans and stuff like that. But still, we really trim back the banter. But man, they respond to the comedic energy of our band so well.
Last year, the Foo Fighters took a stab at the Bee Gees. I thought it kind of missed the mark. I don't know if you had the chance to listen to it yourself.
Well, I loved it. I love that they were doing it. Our fans got so mad at them. They're like, "No, that's tragedy's territory. How dare you?" But I think that's pretty rich to be like, "No, we invented covering that band." That's completely absurd. But yeah, it was kind of funny because it brought a lot of attention our way. I love that there's this rock band who just loves the Bee Gees so much that they wanted to go do some Bee Gees songs. Their version wasn't that wasn't a big reinvention like we do. Like their sound was really much more authentic to the Bee Gees. I think the drums were a bit more rocked up, but yeah, it was much more kind of up the middle kind of covers.
Well, those are all the questions I have for you today, Mo Royce. The new album, I Am Woman, comes out March 3rd on Napalm Records. Fantastic disco tribute to some strong, empowered females. And you're heading out there with Steel Panther, and I wish you the best of luck out there.
Hey, cheers. Thanks so much.
And thanks for speaking with KNAC.com.
You got it.